Right now, there are 7 states that are back above pre-pandemic inventory levels. Okay. And there's 3 that are probably next. So there's actually 10 states across the country basically that are at or above pre-pandemic inventory levels. Okay. So national active listings are on the rise. It's up 34% between September of 2023 and this past September, year over year, up 34% on active listings. Now, across the country, we're below pre-pandemic levels on housing inventory, active listings in the market. It's 23% below September 2019. Despite the fact that there are 10 of these states that are basically at or above, we're still below. Like, think about this. Right now, the number for Realtor.com on active inventory, they take active listings plus some of the pendings on their site, and it's at 940,000 plus right now. In September of 2019, that number was 1.225 million. Okay, so that's across the country. How much less inventory? It's the main reason we've seen prices hold while rates have gone up. And so some of the states that make up those 10 states that are, basically at or above pre-pandemic levels are mostly those in the South. Like we talked about on the first segment, some of the South having, more of those listings, more of those sellers. You've got Tennessee, Texas, Idaho. I know it's not in the South if you're checking my geography, but here's the 10 in no particular order. Tennessee, Texas, Idaho, Florida, Colorado, Utah, Arizona. Washington is in that group, Oklahoma, Alabama, Oregon. Okay, so you got a mix between West and South states there where you've really seen the inventory levels rise. And there's a shift in statewide active housing inventory. That chart that I was talking about, there's a circle size by active housing inventory. There's all these circles. Just think of a page, a blank page, and you've got all these circles on it. Connecticut's all the way at the very bottom, and it's not even close. Like most of the grouping is in the top or the middle in terms of active housing inventory for sale for September 2024. Connecticut all by itself, all the way at the bottom, the least inventory of any of the 50 states. Next on the list would be Rhode Island and Illinois. So, some of those that are looking across that Connecticut-Rhode Island border, even harder for them because it's like you're dealing with the two lowest.
Vermont's right there too.
Yep, Vermont is in the mix there as well. So Connecticut, it's not even close. There's not a number 2 contender, the outright lowest inventory across the country, which means right now sellers have full control. One of the interesting things at that Zillow event last week is their chief economist said, hey, there are markets right now that are buyer's market, meaning sellers don't have the control. Think Southwest Florida. Southwest Florida, obviously, we'll see what happens after Milton and all this kind of stuff. Maybe some of that inventory goes away. But there are a number of markets. Austin is a buyer's market, meaning there's more months of inventory, over 6 months of inventory. 6 months is the break even. There's no control, sellers or buyers. Months of inventory means that's how many months it would take for all the inventory currently on the market to sell out if no new listings came on during that time. So you have locations across the country that have over 6 months of inventory, buyer-controlled markets. Connecticut, Chaz, you and I talked about last week, is down at 2 months of inventory.
2.6 on the monthly, 2.2 on the rolling 12.
Yeah. And so the national average is up closer to 4.5. I think it's 4.3 right now on months of inventory, and there are locations that are up over 6. So sellers have complete control in Connecticut right now. That, what the last 12 months will tell us is that shift has happened in other locations. It can happen here. What happens now doesn't mean forever. A lot of people get caught up in saying, well, gee, a lot of people got caught up in 2007. I was one of them. It's like, man, home prices are never going to come down. Instead, they came down. They came down hard, and they came down for a long time. Inventory doesn't stay where it is forever. We don't build a lot in Connecticut, so we do have, that for sellers and homeowners, that protection piece that you're not going to see too much inventory. We're in a much different situation than the mortgage crisis. But sellers are in absolute full control. If you're thinking about selling, certainly there's a conversation to be had. OneTeamCT.com. We could have that conversation with you. But the conversation is like, hey, what is the right strategy? Is it right now we're sitting at a number? Is it safe to wait February, March, April when I get the most buyers looking, when I can get the highest price on a 12-year cycle? All depends on your current situation and your actual specific location within Connecticut as well. So I know I mentioned in the last segment, thought we'd bring that up. We can go back and dive into some more of the seller reporting though here.
Yeah, absolutely. So what this one was, I thought was kind of interesting here, was the income needed to buy a house, or the annual median household income among sellers is 90 to 94,000, which is higher than the overall national median of, call it 74,580. But this stat was really interesting to me. And again, this is across the entire United States. So you have to think about, certain parts of the country a little bit more affordable. But 25% of seller households right now make less than $50,000 a year.
Wow.
29% make between $50,000 and $99,000, and 46% make over $100,000. I thought that was a pretty drastic jump there, from 25 to 46% in terms of who's selling.
Rob, you seen any with the listings that you're taking, any trend lines between this data and most of the clients that you're working with?
What do you mean? Oh, with this data?
Yeah, with some of these numbers that we've gone over. I mean, I think it's, it's showing that the majority of the sellers are millennial and Gen X. It makes up 6 out of 10 sellers between 30 and 59.
I have to agree with that. I'm more in that range. That's
Yeah.
a lot of my buyers and sellers.
But from a budgeting perspective, most of the people that I've been engaging with, they're kind of in that middle spot. They're probably in that 50 to 99, but they are more of that millennial. So they have that first, call it real job, for lack of a better term.
Exactly.
So they probably got entry-level jobs, 70, 80,000. So they are at that point. So that's in alignment from, the conversations I've been having.
I think the number that sticks out the most here to me is, people ask, like, why aren't there more homes coming on the market? Is because most sellers are also buyers. This is in every year. Okay, so just over half of the sellers in 2024, 54% reported buying a home in addition to selling one. Right? People don't sell a home, then decide to go camping with Skelly for the rest of their lives over there in Lebanon. Skelly's doing that for a weekend. Most people don't want to be homeless when they sell their home, so they're buying the next house, the move up house, the move down house, the open floor plan, the one level, whatever the next thing that suits their life is, different school district, what have you, right?
That's true.
So this was the smallest share since at least 2018, because a lot of people that would buy that next house are also just staying in the house because of the interest rate. Yep. Right. So you have first time home buyers that came to the market. That was the biggest share of buyers, but still 54% of sellers this year also bought a home. That was 70% in 2023, 71% in 22, 65% in 21, 63% in 20. You go pre-pandemic, 64% in 2019, 61% in 2018. On any given year, pre-pandemic, during pandemic, even now in a hard market, you have most sellers also buying. And so when you have sales that have crunched down to a screeching halt, this has been the slowest market in terms of total sales, while prices remain high. Slowest market since 1995 on sales across the country. Speaking, despite that, you still have the people that are engaged also buying, and so that's holding up the inventory. Hey, I'm not going to put my house on the market till I know where I'm going. I'm not going to know where I'm going until I know I can afford the interest rate, and the 30-year fixed, is what it is. We'll give you an update on where the 30-year fixed is and what might be going on with that and more when we come back. You're listening to Real Estate Radio 94.9 News Now, stimulating talk.